Hmm. Invite friends. Invite, invite, invite. Invite, 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 invite. Hello. Invite, invite. Hello. Hello to the world. Hello, hello. All right. I'll say I'm done for now. Hi. Hello. My name is Raphael O'Neill, aka Nola Butterfly. Hello, hello. And I'm the girl who proved weather is weaponized. Yeah, I mean, we all knew that, right? There's patents and all that, but apparently none of that matters and none of that counts as proof. And finding chemicals on the ground don't mean they came out of a certain plane. It could be pollution. There's a lot of excuses for denying or slicing and dicing the narrative of the chemtrail into such a state that nobody takes you seriously. But there's a science to it where if you follow the science and the narrative as it should be laid out, not as it is laid out, as the science dictates it should be, there's a whole other narrative to climate change. Huh? How about climate changed, right? Climate changed. It is happening and it is deliberate. And I'm chomping at the bit getting to my work because I have a world, actually a universe of evidence. And I have a world of hot water to deliver to the world. And it's the most significant part of the climate changed narrative that needs to happen, especially as we see Imelda popping up, right? Imelda popping up completely out of the blue in shallow waters, which is something that hurricanes do not do. They do not do that, but it just did. So apparently, what do we know? No, they've never have done that before. They don't just pop up in shallow waters. Well, that's global warming for you. We're going to die. We're going to die. Well, yeah, we're all going to die one day anyway. But more from microwave proliferation than from an excess of CO2. In fact, oh goodness, I'm getting a lot of, I don't know how to mute these here. Notification settings. Let me see if I can mute these for a second. Hopefully I didn't lose y'all. I'm not going to mess with that. That's just going to throw things off. Here, let me get back to y'all. Do you see me? Here, okay. Hello, hello. So we're talking about Imelda in the Gulf. Friend of mine who actually studied the climate sciences was telling me that this is something that just does not happen. We've seen a lot of things that just don't happen. We've seen the storms go backwards. We've seen them going into Doppler radar over and over again. And apparently that does happen. And now that we're onto it, it seems like they've just they've developed other techniques or used the other techniques that they have employed, using multiple radars to steer in an indirect approach versus just being lazy and pulling the darn thing into itself over and over again and like swirling it on top like Harlem Globetrotters like twirl their basketball. I mean, they're doing that with these storms on top of Doppler radar, guys. I'm slicing and dicing my own work over and over again. I have such few views. I have to assume that all the people on Geoengineering Watch, the million who follow Dane Wiggingnut, who like refuses to say Doppler radar steers the storms. He says a microwave facility tower on Doppler on Eglin Air Force Base. He never says Doppler is feeding, is feeding the storm, but he won't say Doppler. And the significance of that is. And the other people who cock block this work, excuse my French, and they do it in such a way, they've shown themselves to me and the other people who are paying attention. The general population don't get into the deep nuance of the climate engineering narrative, but what everybody is having a hard time owning is the fact that Doppler radar not only steers these storms and these severe weather events, but daily manages the hydrological cycle. Now, that's the evaporation and rainfall as it interacts with either the jet stream or other high and low pressure front creators, such as Doppler radar. I'm showing over and over again in these different edits here how Doppler will do something and then the weather will respond. And this needs to be answered to. And I can only be threatened. I can only be insulted. I can only be denied. I can only be laughed at, shadow banned, censored, just straight out anything but acknowledged with intellectual honesty. And those who don't have any hubris in the race, those who aren't paid to be stubborn and go in a circular loop that doesn't go anywhere, those who are intellectually honest and scientifically based, when they see the evidence, they're beside themselves. Because, oh my God, climate change? Let's talk about climate change. Now you're in my territory, bitches. Yeah, baby. You're not going to talk about climate change without answering to a few things. You're going to point to Irma and to Katrina. Well, I found the Army captain that was ordered to bring as many body bags to New Orleans as he could before Katrina made landfall. I got his testimony a year before he got a bullet in the head. And he said he was ordered to bring as many body bags as he could to New Orleans 11 days before Katrina made landfall. 8 days before, he had 5,226 body bags. And Cynthia McKinney is on record, and I'm slicing and dicing that video to serve it up. And I'm also making a movie on the documentary series I've got going on, which is going to be rolling out all the details. But I've got a movie, World of Hot Water, the story of climate change, that I'm going to be presenting at the Zeitgeist Theater in New Orleans here at the beginning, the first Sunday of every month. We're having an event this year. But this next one is on microwaves and weather. And I have spoken on TV. I have actually shown HAARP clouds and talked about HAARP and the effect of microwaves on water vapor, and that it needs to be put on the table. And this is part of an event. And some people don't like talking about climate engineering and 5G. They don't like mixing it up. But guess what? I mean, we're all electric. It's all energy, frequency, and vibration. And it's all a matter of aligning the energies and ionizing the air. And there's so many frequencies that employed. They alternate multiple frequencies. They twirl these storms around on their fingers like this, just like the Harlem Globetrotters, can twirl it around. They can park it on top of the Bahamas and wipe the slate so that I guess Jeffrey Epstein can have a little new island to play at. I don't know. Who knows, right? I'm not telling you what their agenda is. I don't have to know why there's a dead body, but I say, I saw I saw the electric pole zap it. I don't know how or why or what, but it did. Well, we're seeing the Doppler radar zap these clouds, and we're seeing it using the technology that they use. And it's not reading. It's not predicting. It's forming through a series of high frequency pulses. Duh. Water vapor is the most prominent greenhouse gas on Earth. Even small changes in the location or abundance of clouds could change the climate, according to NASA, more than the anticipated changes brought about by other greenhouse gases other than water vapor, right? Because water vapor is a greenhouse gas. Human-produced aerosols, because that has a really bad, that has a big warming effect. Aerosols do. We got to acknowledge that. And contrails don't form on pixie dust. They form on aerosols. And these aerosols come from what? All sorts of sources, actually. And contrails. And we're not really testing the jet fuel, are we? And there's other planes that we're seeing on radar that aren't showing up as identified, or that we're seeing with our eyes that aren't showing up on radar. So how can that be? Who's Who's allowing that? Contrail cirrus. Oh, it's okay for contrail cirrus to take out your skies. It's nobody's business to tell you about artificial clouds or climate, even though they're not going to deny it. If you call it contrail cirrus, call it chemtrails, you're a nut. Contrail cirrus has an effect on weather, on climate, and is built on soot and other aerosols. And we're not talking about it. Well, why aren't we talking about contrail pollution? So the sustainability narrative as it is right now is letting pollution off the hook. It's actually, and I'm in the process of proving this through a series of ways and points and narratives. And I've been doing that. I've been holding City Hall accountable to the sustainability narrative, saying 5G sustainable in what universe is, first of all, killing humans, proliferating the landscape with radiation that's going to harm humanity and other life forms. And I remind me to tell you the squirrely story about 5G later on. Not good. Not good. There's a talk that we can play for mayor, council, and constituents there in a room and at home. You can feel free to slice and dice any of my material any which way you want, so long as it's telling the truth about microwaves. Yeah, microwaves affect even NOAA is saying that years of weather prediction is going to be hindered by 5G, which is going to interfere with water vapor signaling. Oh yeah, in what way does it interfere? Does it interact? Yeah, well, of course it does. We saw this hailstorm in Guadalajara in June, or is it July, and it was 5 feet, like a river of hail in the street, not the sidewalk, not the roofs of the car, not the roofs of the buildings, but under the 5G LED lights and something about some black 5G cables that were buried underground. You should have seen it. There's been some crazy weather, but there's also the wannabe Tesla, the 20,000 5G satellites Tesla, Elon Musk, that is going to fry humanity with 20,000 5G satellites. It has sent up 60 right now. God knows where they are. I'd like to know where they are. I would like an interactive map letting me know where all the microwave proliferation is and what frequency it is transmitting at all times. There needs to be no frequency transmitted that is not shown to the public. And the rhythm and the rate at which it's pulsing to see how it affects, how it affects, what frequencies it affects in mind control and other elements as well. There's a lot of arenas that we're being exposed to in these frequencies, and they're overlapping, and they have multiple effects when they overlap, and they have individual effects, and there's high and low frequencies being used. We're seeing that. Other people are doing the work. Not all of them have gone public yet. I'm just glad to say that if anything happens to me, the best work is going to be coming out without me. There's a lot, people are catching on, but not enough people in the mainstream yet. So we have to regurgitate some of it, but we've got new information, and we're slicing and dicing the best of our old stuff with some great new stuff, and we're putting it all together. And Imelda, I mean, they're bringing it up. We've got videos on how to read Doppler radar. I'm making a few videos right now that in the next couple of days I'll be able to put up. I'm Nola Butterfly on YouTube and across the web on BitChute and 153news.net, completely uncensored. I get like thousands of views without even trying over there, whereas I'm lucky to get 100 views on YouTube because even my subs don't get notified. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that some channels get their work regurgitated over and over again. But what happens with that work is you don't actually end up with liability in that work. But with the work that we're doing in World of Hot Water and in the slicing and dicing here of microwaves and weather, and in the movie, and we're fixing to get a big campaign going, but we're still assembling the work. We're doing the research. We've already done the research. we're just assembling it, and more research is coming in because it's a universe. It's not just a world of hot water. It's a universe. It's 100 years of lies to cover up the fact that water vapor is significant in the whole greenhouse gas story. And the reason that it's significant in the whole greenhouse gas story is because we affect it, but we say we don't affect it. This is a $1 trillion secret. We affect water vapor. We're doing it every day. And the same tools that help read the weather are as incredible and crazy as it is to say. This is what the evidence is showing us. So to contradict the radar evidence and the years of documentation I now have, and the foresight and the prediction of landfalls and the insights I'm able to share with people, and when you take a minute to understand what we're saying, you can understand the climate in your area as well. Find out where the Doppler radar is. You want to know why you have a drought? Well, is Doppler radar pulsed on you all the time, California? I've got a we got a world of information we're going to be letting out in pearls, and then we're going to be stringing those pearls into all sorts of different necklaces. So don't let the climate change narrative get full transparency matters. Yes, sir. Must be one. Okay. Yeah, don't let the climate change narrative get in the hands of industry. Pollution is a really, really bad problem, but they think if they just address CO2, that they'll be okay. CO2 is a eugenic narrative. Eugenics is the science and study of managing populations and the breeding intelligently, the directing of breeding intelligently in the human populations, and the culling thereof through a variety of different means. Some of them really diabolical. From all sorts of things, from a variety of chemical castrations to sterilizations, deliberate and secondary through chemical castrations, and all done in the environment, and all done with the FDA and the FCC saying it's all good. They didn't give you any more than you're allowed, but no one taking count all of the cumulative poisons, for crying out loud. No one taking count of the cocktail. What's inside of the cocktail? Who's keeping count of the cocktail? It's not just one piece of poisonous food we're eating. It's not just one piece of poisonous breath we're breathing. It's not just one area of radiation for one moment of time that we're exposed to and that we're being radiated in. It is ongoing. It is increasing, and it is exterminating the human species, and it doesn't have to be. Most people most people are more interested in forgetting this so they can go back to work. So things are going to have to get ugly unless you're one of us who feel that life is worth trying, that whatever you got going on, it's worth getting creative. It's worth putting in an effort. It's never been more important. You've never been more crucial. There's a tipping point we need, and the revolution will not be televised because it cannot be televised because it takes place in the mind, and the damn bastards own the TV stations anyway. So it won't be televised because they don't want us to know we're winning. We're winning. And all we really need is you for that critical mass to happen. But you need to jump in, you need to dive in. And what can you do? You tell us. What can you do? What can you do? You got this? What's it for? if you can't imagine, if you can't dare, if you can't dream, if you can't put whatever your odd talent is, I don't care how odd and how trivial you think it is, you being the best you is part of the solution, is the only solution. Participating to the capacity that you can, but consciously. So if you're a unconscious co-creator, you're going to be responding to the propaganda and the stimuli and to the fear that has been being bred into you and to the wrong narrative. So you have to actually stop and look and listen to crazy people like me. That who am I? I'm just somebody that's looked at the science long enough with patience and has been able to just hold it accountable to itself. That's it. I'm not making any claims. I'm just holding the science accountable to itself. Water vapor is the most prominent greenhouse gas on Earth. They leave it out of the climate change narrative because supposedly we don't affect it, except when CO2 increases, then the heat increases and therefore the evaporation cycle increases. Oh, I found a really good document that was removed off the internet, but I was able to pull it up on archive.org. And it talks about how the driver of climate is the heat storage capacity of the oceans and how the rising of the sea level is going to be different in different areas. It's interesting. And I wonder, because I know of different technologies. I heard of a technology before I learned it actually exists or it's being proposed. Denied maybe that it's in actual existence. But again, this person who worked for industry and was sworn to secrecy, confided to his mother that he saw this big giant fan under the ocean floor and he was terrorized. This was after Katrina. He quit his job. He moved to the West Coast and he hoped nobody ever asked him about what he saw under the water there when he was an underwater diver. But his mom told a friend of mine, who told me, because she thought maybe it would be of interest to me, but she didn't know what to make of that story. And I later confirmed, well, first I heard about it through Jim Lee, that he goes, my God, they made that, huh? And then I saw later on that it's one of the proposed things, these fans to churn up colder water up above. What actually is very significant in climate is the rate of evaporation. And if there's moisture underneath on top of the water doesn't evaporate as much because there's a blanket. And so if you were to be able to affect the water vapor rising on the surface of the oceans, could you not then cause greater evaporation, especially if you're churning up the cold, maybe you're redistributing the heat. Maybe you're getting more heat into the ocean overall over time. There's a lot of things that didn't need to be considered here. We need to have a say in this. We need some questions answered without some pseudo intellectual elite snob that thinks he's greater than anything with his degrees and his science, but isn't able to be direct and to follow through on a conversation all the way to its end and answer. Why are these storms interacting with Doppler radar? Why are we seeing Doppler radar act and then the climate react time and again? Why am I able to decode the language of Doppler along with other people? Why is nobody considering or talking about the unsustainability of microwaves in a landscape that is supposed to be in danger of killing us all because of climate change and global warming? And seeing these climate effects going around the radars. Hello. Anybody want to share that? Any chemtrail activists want to get the word out? Because I see a lot of chemtrail activism that doesn't talk or that reference some weaker part of the conversation. Like, you guys want to keep chasing your tail, keep complaining about the same thing but not doing anything, then do not support this work. Then just ignore it. Or like it, but don't share it. Don't talk about it. Don't follow it. Don't do your own research. A lot of people think I'm going to be doing it. I'm doing what I can, but I'm looking for people who can do better than me. So Aspen Institute runs NOLA now. Yes. We did a little video on that. Lawrenson did an interview and talked all about that. Okay, well, weather is weaponized. Don't believe the climate change narrative as it is. It is incomplete. Parts of it are true. I mean, if you're worried about CO2, okay, look, if you're worried about CO2, stop using Roundup. Stop using glyphosate. Buy only organic, grow only organic. Don't use Roundup in your garden. It is destroying the microbes in the soil, and it is offsetting CO2 levels above the soil. And actually, if you reintroduce friendly bacteria into the soil, within 2 to 3 years, you'll have CO2 levels that are restored above the soil. And ship tracks, people complain about global warming and then taking cruise ships. Ha! Hypocrisy knows no end. And it's really like a lack of self-awareness and a lack of awareness of facts, because we only regurgitate the facts that we're told on the news, and we only get upset about what we get told to be upset about. And when people tell us the truth that has not been processed by mainstream channels, we tend to not be able to know what to do with it. The outrage is gone because, well, if it was true, then we would know about it. Well, you're finding out about it. Check it out for yourself. Look at the storm right now on radar. Go check out radar. See if you can see anything. I enjoy the storm relative mean velocity loop on the Doppler radar. It's the red and green shows that usually they bring the eye of the storm up between the red and the green with a white line. They'll steer it, and they could steer it with 2 Doppler radars. They'll usually align the polarities on that. Or you could see, like, if they're deflating the Doppler radars that in the regular mode, they're allowing it in. They're allowing the energies in. And then there's beams you'll see coming out, and that feeds the moisture. That actually can create moisture out of the blue. It heats up the air, and it I believe it ionizes it as well. There are multiple effects. I'm still wrapping my brain around the science. We have people on our team that are more qualified than I to bring you the science. I just analyze the science, and I crunch it, and I see if the science and the official narrative makes sense with what we are seeing. And if there's anything in the science that's not really being addressed, or that's being minimized in significance, such as water vapor, the 90% of greenhouse gas that is manageable through microwave beam technology. It's not just Doppler radar, it's HARP. It's not just HARP, it's 5 or 6 or 10 HARPs across the world. So we've got ionospheric heaters, we've got tropospheric heaters, which is what Doppler radar is, and now we've got ground-based radars, and 5G, which is radars, which is amongst us now. And I'll tell you, I'll finish off, well, before I take any questions or comments here, pray for wisdom and ambition to wake people up to change things for the better. Amen. I a lot of people tell me how I should deliver the message. I try it every which way. Really, it's a hard message for people to get. So forgive me if I am the reason that you do not get the message. I don't want to be the reason you just buy the message. I mean, if it makes sense and it resonates with you, great. But go check it out for yourself. You'll see for yourself. This is something that the further in you go, the more the rest of the world makes sense. Actually, light bulbs go off. But I was driving the other day, and I saw changing. No, I'm sorry. I was driving, and I saw a squirrel, like a dead small thing on the road. And I have a thing where I spit out the window. It's like a superstition I have, Middle Eastern thing. When you see something dead, you spit 3 times against the evil eye, like, oh. And so I couldn't do it. So I was going to open my car door. There's no other cars on the road. And then I'm like seeing that there's another squirrel, another dead thing plop in the road. And this one was like, and I'm like, I'm just driving over it, not my wheel over it, but I navigate my wheels between it, and I don't add to the carnage. But then I pull over, and I just like spit 3 times, opening my car door, and I'm like, what was that? 2 squirrels. And I didn't think anything of it. But then I met my friend the other day, actually later on that day, And what he said freaked me out. He said he saw 2 times some squirrely squirrel activity. And the second time it was more freaky. And what it was a squirrel that like fell out of a tree or came out of like was out of it just, and he thought the squirrel was playing, like it was like just playing, but then it was freaking out. It was freaking out, like it was flipping over and like trying to hurt itself, like freaking out. And it committed suicide by freaking out, or it just died. It freaked out to death. And my friend was able to watch the scene for a while, and he grew up on a farm, so he watches the animals, and he saw the owls that were in the area were not picking off the squirrel. And they were avoiding it, the animals, like there was something tainted with the meat, I guess, if it freaked out like that. So I don't know what that is. I don't know if the squirrels that I saw, so I went back a day later because I was busy and I couldn't do anything. And I went back a day later to see if I could get the squirrels again, and they were picked up off the road. And I remember I was in Florida recently, and there was all these, I don't know if it was 5G or 5G lights, or it was 5G tower to tower, but they do it on the side of the road where they were communicating to each other versus across the road. And we're hypothesizing that's probably convenient in case there is a beam that shoots across, and a bird that gets caught, the birds or whatever dies in the middle of the road. It would be better to have them on the sides of the road. So just be on the lookout if you're seeing, dead animals. It might not be like a field that just kills everything. It might be a random beam that catches one odd one. I mean, who knows? So pay attention to the environment. And we're going around, we're still putting, educational flyers in people's mailboxes who live by, and they can be put in everybody's mailboxes now for smart meters, because they're rolling out smart meters in the city of New Orleans. But anyway, 5G is not just a communications tool. It's a range of millimeter wave and a high frequency technology. It's a range that can be used for communications and military applications, thermal and non-thermal effects, and unknown effects. And the whole range is permissible. And this needs to be documented. This can't just be a free range thing. So working on that. Okay, not many bees in my garden anymore, not like it was 5 years ago. Yeah, hopefully you don't use rabies. Oh, maybe rabies, squirrel, Alzheimer's, rabies. Ugh. I don't know. My friend grew up on a farm. He's seen rabies before. I'll ask him that, but he would have known rabies. He would have been like, "Yeah, I just saw a rabbit die, rabies." But maybe you're right. But I also saw a couple other dead squirrels, so it was just weird. And he said it was after the surge. Oh, this is the guy who had a bill that was twice the price, his smart meter bill. He lives in a small place, and he wasn't there. And they charged him, and he's like, "This is ridiculous. This is over. You guys overcharged me." And they said, "Oh no, you're not overcharged. You're undercharged before." So before he had a smart meter, he was undercharged, but now he's overcharged. I mean, they'll say anything. Hey, straddle is the word. Spit 3 times. Tfu. Howdy. Raf, until folks where they live call out these Air Force bases and Army Guard bases where they're flying out of, call them out, people. Where they're flying out of, yeah. But, I mean, Doppler radar, when you see a storm getting, so if you start paying attention to Doppler radar and you see it affecting an area and you have damages to an area by a storm affected by Doppler radar, you could use the totality of my works and what you've gathered as evidence and as a liability point. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you can actually say, hey, this was active at this time. Who was operating it? Who is operating this thing at this time? Who's leaving the beam on so long that it's feeding the hurricane? Who's pulsing it at this range? Why do we have all these storms going right into it? This is a liability point. I'm not going to do it. I've done enough work and I'm in enough trouble, just like, just doing the research here that I've done so far. That's just looking at what's out there, putting together what's available for the layman to see, and giving a narrative that is based on the science that industry has paid trillions of dollars to distract the consciousness of mankind from ever seeing. It is so magnanimous and so simple, and it's stupefying. And that the wrong narrative can be held on a mainstream level because my channel is suppressed, because people don't share the work, because people will keep talking about chemtrails, which is fine, but you can't catch it. You can't catch it. You can say what's going on with the contrail pollution. Let's test the jet fuel. Let's find out why there's planes that we're documenting that are not at this time, at this location exactly, going northbound from southbound, is not on the flight tracker. Why not? Why not, FAA? Who's putting out radiation, FCC? How much am I exposed to right now, FCC? Not just what limit have you taught, what intolerable limit that you've allowed is, has been granted to each individual, but how many individuals and what proximity to me at any given time are they? These are things. I'm repeating myself. It is redundant. It is boring, but it needs to be said. And until it is the mainstream narrative, your sustainability, the Green New Deal doesn't want to acknowledge, well, I don't know if it wants to. It doesn't acknowledge any other source of climate change but CO2. It does mention pollution and some things that sound very utopian, and I'm behind a lot of the things in the Green New Deal, but as it is, it has wrongly defined the climate change narrative, and in so doing is asking the government to fix a narrative that is broken and to address a problem that is not the problem, to which we know their solution will be more of the problem. Geoengineering, for instance. Microwaving to manage the weather as a necessity, or to, they're going to justify the use of it by the use of it. That's what they've been doing. The more these storms happen, the more they say they need to solidify the network of information, of radars, the more they solidify the global network of hacking the hydrological cycle. If this is news, this sounds incredible. I know this is why I present my World of Hot Water documentary series, and I invite you to go see it, either one at a time. They're half-hour episodes, and I'll be rolling them out for a long time. And in the meantime, I'm rolling out other parts that will be recycled and reused in that. But I'm also going to be doing a 2-hour movie on the consolidation of my research and discovery about the effect of microwaves and weather and its part in the climate changed story that you have yet to hear if you haven't heard it from me. Because the difference, people will show me other people that are showing all these things on radar, but they're not showing how the radar is steering the storms, unless they're doing that. If they're doing that, that's great. Therein lies your liability. If they're not doing that, you could do that yourself. It's best if you catch it in the middle of the storm when the storm is active, okay, and you record it, because it's really hard afterwards, after the storm has passed, to order the product, which is the slides of the radar images that are not put together, and you're going to have to reanimate it for yourself, and that's a little bit of work and a little bit off-putting unless you're technically minded and up for the challenge. But who's got all that extra time, Anyway, come on in. The water is fine. A little bit hot, but Um, boiling frogs. Yeah. We better realize what's boiling the water before we get cooked. And we invite you to howdy spit. Yeah, going backwards here to learn all about it. Most people are ignorant to the world around them. Most of them are happy being ignorant yet and don't want to learn anything that will upset their bliss. Any other source. So when you talk, it will only be to those who are willing to listen. Yes. Any other source. Yeah. There's a formula to follow to reach a few of those that have a hint of possibility. The rest are lost forever, no matter what you do. Yeah. Well, forever is really not for me to be the judge of. I'm not the judge of what seeds will be sowed when. It's not my job, and my job is just to sow it. Yeah, I know. I would like to have the most effective way of reaching humanity that is willing. I've always actually focused on the part of the wave that is cresting, that is foaming, that is on the top and moving forward, and that you can ride, and that's moving forward. And I've seen that part of the wave. I've seen human consciousness really flourish, even if it's not totally widespread. It is widespread. It's just not totally thick enough. But everybody's spread out, and for a reason. Those of us who are aware. Great for you and Ilana Freeland to do a talk together. I would love for Ilana Freeland and I to do a talk together. Yeah, I share my work in her group. I'm not sure if what she thinks about it, because all I got when I first discovered that Doppler radar steers the storms by the eye, which was really, I was really a greenie. I wasn't like this meteorologist, and I called it next rad, like the greenie that I am. Like it's next generation, but it's short. Next rad is without a T. It's next NEX. She schooled me and said it's next, called next rad, and that was the only thing she said when I tagged her. She didn't really comment on, whoa, well, good find, girl. Look at that. The eye's going right into the storm. No real acknowledging of it. No denying it. No hiding it. But this is where I wish the chemtrail community would maybe they don't understand. This doesn't deny any of the work that she's done, or any of the work that Jim Lee's done, or any of the, Dane Wigington, you got to watch out for, because he's got some misspun narratives. He takes good, solid facts and he misspins it. He works for the power plants. He whether he's conscious of it or not, I'm not going to say, but he, yeah, you can give him the benefit of the doubt if you like. But he gets 1 million views, and but he's pushing CO2. And he actually told me that I should actually not bother being an activist, a chemtrail activist, if I was going to deny CO2 was. And I'm like, I'm not denying it. I'm just staying neutral to the CO2 narrative, because I didn't want, I didn't, especially earlier on, while there was a lot of debate on whether, climate change was real or propaganda or what, I just said, like, look, whatever your belief is, clouds are going to be of interest to you too. If you think an invisible gas is relevant, what about clouds trapping heat in physically? And then I found out that NASA confirms this, and says it's the most significant aspect of climate, actually. So, yeah, hello. And Joe Fox there. Be great. But I would love to talk to Lana Freeland. I mean, the Doppler works with HARP, and you could say, yeah, of course we know that Doppler steers the storms. No, it's not. We know. This is the most relevant tool. This is the most gate-kept tool. This is the most significant Achilles heel. That means weak point, weakness in the chain. Only as strong as the weakest link. Doppler radar is the weakest link in the sustainability and the climate change narrative, and all the lies that the globalists and the eugenicists, because let me tell you what we're finding out too. Ooh, this is going to get me taken off. Where the vaccadoodles, where they're forcing mandatories of the unmentionable, objectionable, unmentionables. vaccines. Where they're forcing that, they have population growth that is pretty big in the large spectrum of the +2 to +3%. And those countries that are allowed to slack are losing their populations. And some countries that are losing their populations were trying to slacken, and they got an ass whooping, like Samoa with the nurses. I mean, I'm doing a video on that too. I can only do so many videos at one time. It drives me crazy. I have so much information to prove and show to the world. And then I only get a few views. So please share my work. I know it's not that my work is not interesting. There are less interesting channels that have thousands of views. And maybe I should start purchasing my views. Maybe I'll start purchasing my views. Yeah, if I could afford to. Because that gains popularity. But darn it, the science is the science, and I invite you to come join me in the science and answer to it if you can. I dare you to. Put this on the table in your climate change agenda, Green New Deal. You want to really stop global warming, address the real issues, not just our scientists and the other scientists have agreed. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. They're all fighting, and what they're fighting over is that they're missing a key component. And the key component is water vapor, microwaves, aerosols, or climate change. Pollution has an effect on sustainability of life, period. So that needs to be a priority, because we can't freaking keep doing chemicals. And then EMF, radiation proliferation, not good, not good. Let's all those chemicals into the dehydrated cell, into the opened up blood-brain barrier and the brain, and all that pollution just goes right in to the brain. And we wonder why our children have cancer. I mean, not good, not good. But we have solutions to everything, and all we need is to put on our big boy underwears and panties and get to work. Somebody said that's a distracting phrase. Purchase and disclose you're doing so. Right. Well, here you go. Hello. Microwaves and weather. Imelda, another man-made event. If you end up flooding from that, you can use the Doppler radar. In court, my friend. Do you have the balls? Or do you just want to complain, get your insurance money, stop what you're doing in life, rebuild whenever the weather makers say you will? I mean, I don't know. I'd rather take my chances with God. We haven't actually seen what that looks like in a while. The weather's been hijacked for a long time. They really synchronized things in the last 2 decades here, in the last millennia. But they've been able to affect it. And actually the drought in California and the West Coast started actually in, right at the time the Doppler radar, the last rollout of Doppler radar, the 1988 to 1992 Doppler radar rolled out. That's when the drought in the Midwest happened, and then California would just stop getting. Now they get the Pineapple Express. I grew up in California, and we didn't get the Pineapple Express. We didn't get atmospheric rivers dumping. And what it is you've got a wall of microwave high pressure creation being imposed on California most of the time. And when they let it through, they're bringing in an atmospheric river. They're calling it the Pineapple Express. They're steering it with Doppler radar. This is my theory because I haven't actually caught it on radar. I'm telling you how I learned how my storms are steered here. So I have seen the drought that they create, and I have seen the timeline. I am studying the timeline of weather phenomena for the last 120 years. And I was able to find Nikola Tesla's Wardenclyffe Tower by simply studying a list of, after a list of hurricanes, I decided I needed to check the list of tornadoes, because that was what Weather War 101 was already showing for years, that was proving was being steered by Doppler radar, or being created by pulse Doppler radar. And that was a little harder to prove. Actually, he tried to get me off of Doppler radar and focusing on power plants, because power plants can feed a hydrological cycle, either deliberately or maybe it can be manipulated by simply putting hot air, like aiming the Doppler radar over an area and heating up the atmosphere, therefore maybe creating an interaction of clouds over the power plants that are independent of the intentions of the power plants. That is a possibility, but we do have patents that show cloud making technology from power plants through the power plants deliberately through mechanism and on the wet surface air coolers. So, but that is really the less significant part of climate when you understand that we live in an electric universe. Everything, including ourselves, are electric. And water, the earth is 80% water. We're 80% water because that conducts electricity. And we've got companies that have already said they can do what I'm seeing Doppler radar do. We've got John G. Trump, Trump's favorite uncle, who was the privileged individual who had the fortuitous luck of a lifetime of handling the genius engineer Nikola Tesla's totality of his life's work. And in 2 weeks' time, going through his torturous handwriting, decided there was nothing of value that could be weaponized in that work, and then ran off with the military to develop weaponized radar, and then gets patents for microwave beam technology through MIT. John G. Trump, our president's favorite uncle. Not a coincidence. Not a coincidence at all, but actually explains exactly how deep into the world of hot water we really are. And so only unbridled, courageous, critical mass of human consciousness sharing this, absorbing this, and responding to this accurately in the narrative can change all of this. Hey, wake up, Pepper. Yeah, he's a chillaxer. Give me a chihuahua and heat, and he'll be up in a second. Or a treat. But he's a keeper. He travels well. You were born in California. You currently reside in North Carolina. Truck driver, you go everywhere. Have personally watched jets create cirrus clouds that suck the moisture from the air that would have been normal clouds to rain on California. And yeah, they're actually desiccants. They dry them out. They also help create boundary layers for the fronts. This was confirmed by somebody who watched chemtrails be laid out from west to east or east to west during a storm that was coming up, and the storm went up to it and then made a 45-degree turn at the trails. So let me see here. And then I have followed them towards the east where they ended up having major floods. I watched them and create the cirrus clouds to rain clouds in one day. Yep. Keep in mind, I'm a truck driver. I watched this stuff from the beginning to the very end. I followed it all, and it's not the only story I have. There are so many more. Anyone that tells me to my face that there is no geoengineering going on, my first reaction is to punch them in the mouth. Metaphorically speaking, we don't endorse the harming of anybody else. It is layers of unconsciousness. Forgive them, for they are stooped and steeped in layers of hypnosis, layers of propaganda, generations of fear-induced mind control, fear-based programming, wars, satanic ritual abuse, through the wars, through television. Oh my God, I can't even watch television for a minute. I've seen things that haunt me, like to this day on television. And I see things on the internet just through my, I mean, the television is horrifying. I don't like to leave my son, my 5-year-old, in front of it for a second. I mean, put him in front of a Netflix movie that you choose, or put him in front of a video, that's fine. But my God. Hey, Glenn, I love you. Hello, friend. Oh my, I miss you. We need to catch up here. Not here, but sometime soon. But anyways, hey, I proved weather is weaponized and microwave steers the storm and climate changed is deliberate. Yes. Whoa. And I've got a documentary series and I got a movie I'm releasing and all that and more. And boy, It's a lot. It's a lot. But I'm having fun telling the story. I was actually on local television talking about microwaves and weather. I took City Hall on, and I got them to put on a show for us where they pretended they were going to get a health panel. When I asked them to prove that the 5G was safe technology for humanity, and after 6 months they failed to, and they cock blocked their own scientists and doctors and medical experts and 5G experts and people that were leading in global appeals to the EU and with other scientists and all that. Those people were denied a conference call because apparently they can't manage 4G or a conference call, or Skype call or anything, but they wanted to proliferate 5G, and they can't even manage the sewage and water board in New Orleans, who we heard was told to stand down in the last storm and not turn the pumps on. So there's a lot going on behind the narratives. We know that the Aspen Institute is oh wait, I didn't want to do that. I want to love on that. There we go. The Aspen Institute is educating our mayors. Our last mayor, Aspen Institute, is a globalist think tank that molds people, and they're well-intentioned people. I believe they think they're helping out because they've been given a narrative that they buy into. But this is all behind the scenes. This is not with public knowledge or vote. This is really insidious, where the city is given money to fix some things. Free money, but it's not free. It's got a bait, and the bait is to accept all sustainability stuff. So that's smart meters, that's 5G, and the thing is, it is not sustainable. It actually, the only reason it's sustainable is because it reduces CO2, because it kills people. It kills people. It doesn't actually stop global warming because it creates a radiative field of its own. It makes your house more flammable. It's going to make you have to change out all the appliances in your house sooner or later when they change the frequencies. You can be programmed. There are all sorts of malicious applications. You can be programmed or hacked to get a certain pulse. Because think about it. Why do the smart meters pulse several times a day? They do. They pulse, and they pulse irregularly. They need to know, what do they need to know several times a day? What is the rate of pulsing that is going on? What effects does it have on human behavior? We know that frequency affects behavior. There are studies on that. So we need to look at that. And how come they're reading it several times a day? And how come they're using my electricity to read the neighbor's meter and passing it down the chain until it gets back to the pole? How come people are complaining of 2 to 4 times the electric bills? How come people are reporting of ill health effects? Some people, seriously, especially if they're exposed to multiple smart meters that are right behind their bedroom, because they're living in an apartment unit. So this is something that's not going to be this is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. It's not good. It's already having an effect, and we're seeing instant storms. I believe, based on my research and the science we're pulling together, that the cell towers are part of the global weather hacking network, and it adds to the pulsing, to the energizing of the air, to the electric grid, to the energy involved, and the 5G is additional potential. We have seen flooding in New Orleans and parts of the city that haven't flooded ever. The French Quarter. That's why it was chosen, because it was high ground and it was not prone to flooding. It was prone to fires, but not flooding. It was the area chosen by the forefather settlers that said this is a good place to make a city. Right here, we'll make a little square and it'll be good. It's up above the river. And there's a lot of things to climate change that I'd like to see discussed. And it can't be when there's a narrative, a playbook being given out to people, and people are shamed into going along with it instead of encouraged to bring about a scientific objection. to the church of climate change. It comes from good intentions. I mean, there's a lot of good and noble causes that will not be represented by the Green New Deal, despite its allure, despite its promise that there will be a trickle-down effect when you beg the government to fix the problem that it created. You need to define the problem. You need to define climate change more thoroughly. You need to leave it open for additional information. You need to not make it a secret club and turn down people who are coming to the table, coming to your elite meetings. Oh, it'll be open to the press, but only the select press that we have in our pockets who don't question because they just take the scripts that we give them. But not over here. The buck stops here. And we're educating you on how to be climate smart, true sustainability, because we care about the earth. We and the earth are one. That's right. We are. So I love you all, and you can love me or hate me, but this is the truth. What are you going to do about it? I love you truckloads too. Yes, good. Green New Deal, green raw New Deal. People are afraid. We had that. They're wrong and scared. They're afraid, but they're getting, I mean, the more they're seeing these crazy ass storms, the more they're scratching their heads. People aren't stupid. They're just really, really busy, really, really exhausted, and really, really misinformed. They're not stupid. I don't believe that. That's not the reality I'm co-creating. I'm not tapping into people's stupidness. I'm tapping into their higher consciousness, their intelligence, their courage, their magnificence. And to all my magnificent friends out there, you know who you are. Thank you for being you. Stay strong, stay good. No act of goodness and conscious intelligence and conscious action, no matter how small, is ever wasted. So be brave. Hold a viewing party. We've got more movies coming out, and we'll be able to share it with everybody. Don't let them run away. Love you and the truth, babe. That's right. That's why we're friends. Boof. All right. I'm not going to say it. Some people are offended by namaste, but whatever. Like, don't let the Luciferians hijack the language of light and manifestation, which is really our birthright. That's what they've taken away from us. They want us to feel like we can't affect any change and we're powerless. And, all glory be to God and the creative source that from which we spring, and to the tools that we were endowed with by that creative source so that we could help manifest and bring down creative source into the material world. And the darkness is only an absence of that light. So the light in me, man. So it's the light in you. It's cheesy as it might be. It comes from a profound sense of reclaiming the light, reclaiming the narrative, reclaiming our powers. Don't let the Satanists scare you away from the energies that are yours, that when you go into that place, whatever you want to call God, whatever you want, I don't care. Creative source, Jesus, spirit, Allah. Some people say this is blasphemy. You have to call it this. I'm not here to contradict anything that helps you connect to that place within yourself with which you connect to the supreme energy force of the cosmos from which all life springs. And I'm not talking about the little gods. I'm talking about the intelligent energy that's out there that drives us, that propels us forward, this magnificent thing that is manifest in life, in all life, and is accessible from within. Don't let them distract you from all that with all the noise and all the learn to see things for yourself and to think for yourself and to look at the science and to think and analyze it for yourself. And you'll see that the narratives that we're supposed to be having, all narratives have at least 10% of the truth taken out and hidden or obscured or minimized in significance, while the 90% that's left is split into two halves, and those two halves fight each other because they're lacking just the 10% and the little bit of light that would unify them as a whole. So microwaves, water vapor, aerosols, and pollution are what we need to focus on. CO2, take care of the glyphosate and the ship trails, and take care of a few of those things, and CO2 will be more manageable. Yeah, emissions, yeah, we don't need to consume as much as we do. We're unconsciously consuming, but I think when we become more conscious, we are more deliberate in our actions, and when we become aware of what we're facing, eventually we make better and better choices. I mean, why would you inject toxins into a perfectly healthy immune system and then expose it to radiation, so that those toxins can get well into the body? If you know that happens, why would you? Manifest. Yeah, no one gets our souls and the powers that be know it. Oh yeah, ultimately, that's the good news. So there's no reason to freak out. We just, we're the path we're on, we're not surviving this. We are not surviving this. We have nothing to lose. There's too many things that are gonna, it's lit to pop, ain't nobody gonna stop. No one is leaving. Is it I was in the Red Hot Chili Pepper, Jane's Addiction. Yeah. It's lit to pop, guys, but once we accept that, then we don't have to be afraid, because there's nothing to be afraid of. It's then we can just act. Let's just see what we can do to raise consciousness and make different choices. Okay. All right, I'm out of here. Good day, good evening, good morning, and good luck. Love y'all.